there's been this ancient focus in teaching. It's a timeless truth. It's a timeless teaching on know thyself. Knowing the self. What is the I? What is the awareness that's aware of all these different things I'm experiencing? Investigating that through self-inquiry is where we start. It's the ground, okay? Everything else will work itself out and unfold from that place. But meditation, okay, is the practice of discovering that for yourself, within yourself. It's not something that you can learn from someone else. It's not something that you believe in. It's not something that you hear preached from a pulpit. No, no, no. This is direct experiential knowledge. So that's why the spiritual journey can look different for each person, because you're remembering who you really are, but you have this unique human experience, this unique incarnation with all these different karmic predicaments and all these different things that can seem to be in the way of the self-realization. But this is what you have to work with, and this is why you're here, to remember, to recognize, which means to know again. So, yeah, there's peace in this journey, because when you start to break away from all these different systems and institutions who are trying to get you to believe in their dogma, notice key word there, believe. When you break away from that, there's less pressure to have it all figured out on the level of the mind, because that all of the believing in this and that and this doctrine, and do you adhere to this creed, and are you a part of the correct religion or theology, all of that is just stuff that's happening on the level of the mind. It's not the deeper soul stuff. It's not why you incarnated. It's just things that distract us from what is. And we get so caught up in needing to prove that our dogma is right, or the one and only way, and I'm right, you're wrong, us versus them mentality. It's all distraction. That ultimately does not lead to true spiritual transformation or evolution, right? So when you step away from all of that, and you do it in a very honest way, but in a very respectful way. You say, hey, you know what? This doesn't work for me anymore. It may work for you. Y'all keep doing that. Have fun. I'm going to do my own thing. And know that when you do that, when you break away from the group, from the system, from the institution, from the religion, from whatever it is, you're going to receive some pushback. You're going to receive some judgment and condemnation. That's fine. Let it be, because like I've talked about in other videos, no one knows you. No one knows you, so they can't really judge you. And their judgment is just projection, because they don't know you. They're projecting onto you these parts of themselves that they don't like. Or if they're not experiencing freedom, but they see that you're free, then that's automatically going to be a reason why they're going to be judging you or projecting stuff onto you, because they're envious, they're jealous of the freedom that you have that they don't have. And subconsciously they know that, they feel that. So that's how the subconscious mind works. It projects things that we are not willing to acknowledge and accept within ourselves. So that's leave that to be what it is. It's fine. You move past it and you transcend that. And then you start this path of know thyself. You start this journey of letting go of who you think you are to discover who you really are. And it's going to be like hell at first, because you are stepping into the unknown. You're breaking away from the nest. You're breaking away from what was familiar, the traditions, the doctrines, the beliefs, the community maybe, You're leaving that and you're stepping into the wilderness. You're stepping into the desert. And it can feel lonely. It can feel scary. It can feel mysterious. And at first the ego freaks out, because the ego has been so used to the patterns and the cycles and the paradigms, but now you're breaking the cycle. You're moving in a direction that is unknown. But in the darkness, in the wilderness season, you start to really discover who you are, and you become honest with yourself. That's the key, and I say this often, but this is spiritual evolution is all about honesty, being honest with yourself. But when you're in this season, this in-between phase of letting go of who you think you are and discovering who you really are, it gives you that genuine opportunity to be honest. And in the honesty, you can really grow, like I said. And the more honest you are with yourself, the more you're letting go of these fake egoic layers, all these different attachments and all these different identities that were keeping you connected to these different systems that have been programming you and conditioning you. You see? So there's transformation that's occurring whether you realize it or not while you're in hell, while you're going through the dark night of the soul, and then you move past that and you start to see, you start to experience that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that light that you've been thinking is like out there and distant from me and separate from me. No, it actually is me. What I'm perceiving to be my outer world is just a reflection of my inner world. It's all one, actually. So the light that's out there is actually me. And that's what the wilderness season leads you to know for yourself. You know it. You don't believe it. You don't consider it. You don't think about it. No, you directly know it for yourself. And this is what causes you to be empowered, you see? That's the difference. When you're in a system of belief and doctrine and we do this, and that paradigm, that world, that nest was useful. It was we could say it was your spiritual training wheels. It was necessary for you to undergo all of that. It was necessary for you to experience the egoic conditioning and the stuff that comes with whatever you were into. That was part of your journey. But hey, at some point you have to take off the training wheels. At some point the bird has to leave the nest and you have to learn how to fly, right? So this is what this is. It's stepping into the unknown, it's stepping into the mystery, but then you embrace the mystery and you realize that reality is so much bigger than what I've been led to believe. And I know this from experience now because I'm free and I'm soaring and I'm seeing how infinite and majestic and eternal this existence, this reality, or we could say ultimate reality. You're getting a taste of that. Because this particular realm, this particular 3D matrix, that's not eternal. That's not the ultimate. This is just a game or a simulation, if you want to use that word, that we're experiencing, that the soul is experiencing for evolution. It's a construct, but you can actually transcend the construct through meditation by knowing thyself, by knowing who you really are, you see? That's what I'm talking about. So there's all these different constructs within the construct of this 3D earth realm, and then there's constructs outside of this 3D earth realm, but regardless, you can transcend any construct by going beyond the VR headset, the finite mind, and experiencing the infinite awareness that's been observing, that's been witnessing you playing this human role, this human character, this human incarnation, okay? So, yeah. So, This is something that doesn't require much to know thyself. And when you have this moment of self-realization and you know who you are, there is no longer this desire to necessarily escape this construct. You can transcend it, you can taste reality, you can taste what's on the other side, of course, the true self on the other side of the analytical thinking mind that you've been living according to, or the egoic conditioning that you've been living according to. You can have moments of transcendence. However, once you have the moment of transcendence, once you come down from the mountain, you learn that, okay, I'm in this world, I'm in this matrix, but I'm not of it. So, in knowing thyself, in being empowered, in realizing that I am the light of the world, it's not about escapism, it's not about trying to get out of this matrix. No, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason, and now I'm going to let my light shine. And I'm going to learn how to play the game, because the way you actually ultimately transcend this realm, the way you evolve or move past the curriculum that this earth school has to offer, is by falling in love with it. It's not about hating it, it's not about judging it. That's what keeps you stuck in the illusion that we experience. But when you learn to fall in love with it, you see that it was never separate from you. It was you, because all is one. There is no separation. There's only one awareness, one consciousness. And yeah, everything is mind. Everything is consciousness. Mentalism, the first principle in Hermeticism. This is ancient wisdom that they've been talking about and writing about for years, or thousands of years, centuries, I don't know, whatever. So, yeah, this is something that you recognize. And love becomes your embodiment. It becomes everything. Nothing else matters but falling in love with what is right in front of your face. Love is the ultimate river or flow that leads us into these deeper levels of awakening, or these deeper levels of the soul's evolution. So in seeing that everything is one, in seeing that all is mind, all is consciousness, you fall in love with it. And in falling in love with it, you are transcending, your awareness is expanding, and that's what the journey ultimately, reveals to you. That you were never separate, you were never far away, you were never really even off the path, although the mind led you to believe that. You were always home, you were always here, and knowing who you really are was the reason why you incarnated. It's why you fell asleep, it's why you forgot, so that you could just remember who you are. And this keeps happening again and again and again. Why? Because God is playing this ultimate game of cosmic hide and seek. What's the meaning of that? What's the purpose of that? There is none. And that's what the mind really can't grasp. What's this whole reasoning or meaning behind this ultimate sequence of God, the one source, forgetting itself just so it can remember itself? It's a dance. It's not some kind of ultimate whatever, like a test where God is going to judge you and then you go to this place or that place. No, that's not what, that's a belief, that's dogma, but that's not the the one forgetting, falling asleep, and then waking up again and again and again is just a dance. It's a play. It's Leela, as they say in Hinduism. There is no point to it. And again, that's something that I feel like the mind, the finite analytical mind, has such a hard time grasping and being okay with. Because the mind, the ego, has to have some kind of ultimate goal or some kind of reward for what it does. Some kind of end-all, be-all. Some kind of achievement, right? But there's none of that. There is no spiritual report card. And that's why letting go of the ego can be devastating, because so many of us have been living according to the performance-based mentality, or the reward judgment paradigm, or the belief that there's something that I can figure out or believe in that will ultimately give me eternal salvation or eternal bliss, or I'm going to go to heaven forever and just worship. And see, that's just something that people believe in, and you're free to believe in that. If you believe in that, that's absolutely fine. But what many of the mystics have ultimately realized is that this, especially the Taoist, is that when you know the self and you see the self in all things, in everyone, there's awareness of the self, and then there are beings that are unaware of who they really are, the self, the one mind, the big mind, the infinite consciousness. And it's just, it's this dance of non-duality, duality, back and forth. That's the flow, that's the river, that's the dance, that's the grace, that's the rhythm, that's the movement of it. What does this lead us into? It leads us into play. It leads us into not taking all these things so seriously. You can be sincere, as Alan Watts says, but it's not about taking everything so seriously and thinking that, oh, I've got to get it right because there is some kind of ultimate something where a deity is going to judge me forever and ever and ever, and that's going to be it, and that's the whole point of why I'm here. No, you didn't come here to pass a test. And I know I say there's the Earth School and curriculum. That's just me in a metaphorical way, describing how everything is learning. The soul is learning, but it's actually remembrance of the self, of who you really are. But there is no, like, I'm not saying God's this ultimate teacher who's, like I said, grading us on our behavior or on what we believe, or has some kind of spiritual report card for us. That's not what I'm saying when I talk about curriculum and Earth School. When I say that, when I talk about that, I'm just saying that everything is grist for the mill. Everything is something that we can learn from, which will lead to evolution, which will lead to us discovering, again, who we already are. That's what it's all about. Ultimately, there is no path. There is no way. There is no ladder to climb spiritually. We're already home. We're already here. There's all these different things that are clouding that, these egoic layers that prevent us from the truth of being here now, present moment awareness, knowing thyself. But that's why the Buddha said it's, meditation, or the spiritual practice, is ultimately about letting go. It's not about adding and gaining things. No, it's about letting go of all the different things that we have built up and we have constructed in order to get somewhere or in order to be someone. It's about letting all of that shit go so that we can see clearly and so that we can know thyself directly. And this is not something, again, this is not something you can be indoctrinated with or believe or figure out through your own finite mind. No, this is something you have to experience directly for yourself. You have to go beyond the analytical thinking mind, and you have to directly experience who you are for yourself, within yourself. And that's what it is. So there's liberation there. There's unconditional love there, non-judgment. And you see that this is what it's been all about. And then you can laugh. Enlightenment is about laughter. It's about play. It's about being childlike. That's why many of the mystics have talked about how when we are younger, when we first come into this world, there's this original innocence. There's this original wholeness about us. And this beingness. And we're laughing and we're playing and we're just taking life in this way of ease and peace, right? But then of course we grow up and we develop an ego and we have all these different constructs and these conditionings, and then but you transcend and you include, as Ken Wilber says. So as your consciousness is evolving and expanding in your human incarnation, you include the ego, and then you return to the pure beingness that you are, the original innocence, and you channel that through your ego, but you're not attached to your ego. You're not believing that all I am is this separate self, this ego. You see, that's the difference there. So it's not like, oh, you got to become like a child and forget all your responsibilities and forget your ego and all this kind of stuff. No, it's about returning back to the ground of beingness and channeling that through your egoic role or all the stuff. But the difference now is, now that you've transcended the ego, you're not limited by the ego. You're not attached to the ego. You're not solely identified with the ego as a separate, independent self who's traveling through time and space. No, you realize the direct experience that you are the self, Brahman, Atman, as they say in Hinduism. You are the infinite consciousness, and time and space is something that's occurring within you. You are not in time and space. Time and space are within you. And the self, capital S, not the ego, the true self, the awareness, it just is. It's synonymous with the present moment, with the eternal now, and all things. It's crazy. It's a subtle shift. But when you experience this in deep meditation, you see that you are not this separate egoic self moving through time on this planet doing what you do. No, it's all happening in your awareness. It's all moving, it's flowing, it's passing in your awareness. But your awareness, the I am presence that you fundamentally are, hasn't gone anywhere. It has no beginning and it has no ending. It has no birth and it has no death. The body has a birth and a death, but that's just something that's arising in the infinite consciousness. You as the infinite consciousness are, and you are eternal. And by eternal, I don't mean a time that starts that goes on forever and ever and ever. I mean timelessness. I mean beyond time itself. It just is. And that self, that awareness that you are, is fundamentally one. It's the same as the awareness, the I am presence that I have, that we all have. There's only, or I'll say it like this, the number of beings on this planet is one. There's only one being on this planet, God's being, infinite being, the unity of being. And we experience, the one experiences infinite forms and is behind trillions of faces, but it's the one. It's always been the one. That is, know thyself. I can talk about this all day long, but ultimately, like I keep saying, this is something you have to directly experience for yourself, within yourself. When you do, it's liberation, but you already have liberation, so you're not attaining it. It's something you're realizing, it's something you're remembering. Then you live from that liberation, you live from love, you transcend the egoic structures, you transcend this matrix, you're in the world, but you're not of it. And you learn to dance, you learn to play, you learn to have fun, you learn to laugh and enjoy this crazy, mystical, unpredictable, messy, all over the place, wonderful, majestic experience we call the human experience. So, that is the message. Know thyself. Know thyself. And in knowing thyself, you will remember who you really are, who you've always been. And there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to be, except right here, right now. That's it. That's all I have to say. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.